Hey everybody, welcome back to the LuckyDog podcast. This is your host, Elias Roush. This podcast is sponsored by EliasRoushMedia.com, photo, video, digital media production. Forgive me if there's a little bit of a sound difference or even a look difference. Still trying to test out new green screen methods, and I'm also transferring into a new studio, so bear with me on that end. Today we are discussing Manifest. Now, Manifest is one of these shows that has bounced around from, I think it's like a CNBC, well, sorry, not CNBC, but just NBC, from Netflix, all the way from all these different types of distributors and stuff like that. So I've been kind of following it along, mostly from word of mouth, and either people are loving it or people are hating it. And I was like, all right, well, if it's number one on Netflix for at least the last 2 weeks, it's got to have some sort of merit or entertainment value. So I at least had to check out a few of the episodes. So I can't promise how many episodes we're going to cover in this review. Might mark it as just episode 1 with a little dash of what we think about the next few episodes as well. But we'll also leave it with a free spoiler section review. So for this little bit, we're going to talk about this show in spoiler free, as if you have not seen the episodes and have no idea what I'm talking about. So Manifest is an American supernatural drama television series created by Jeff Rake, I'm not really sure. Sorry, Mr. Rake. It premiered September 24th in 2018 on NBC. It centers on the passengers and the crew of a commercial airliner who suddenly reappear after being presumed dead for more than 5 years. It stars Melissa Roxburgh, Josh Dallas, Athena Kathakanis, J.R. Ramirez, Luna Blyaz, Jack Mancina, Parvarin. Sorry, all these names, I'm sorry if I'm murdering any of these names, or, fine people, Matt Long and Holly Taylor. So in October 2018, NBC ordered further episodes for the first season and subsequently renewed the show for a second season that aired in 2020, and again for a third in 2021. So it looks like NBC had their hands on this for at least the first 3 seasons. In June 2021, the season was canceled after 3 seasons. After the first 2 seasons, streaming on Netflix rose to number 1 on Nielsen. I think that's like a viewership list. However, NBC and Netflix entered into negotiations to continue the series. So after the success it found on Netflix, which is what happens with a lot of series, I believe this is kind of like what happened with Breaking Bad at one point. Breaking Bad really wasn't that popular until it was put on from AMC to Netflix, and Netflix allowed people to binge it and realize, oh, holy shit, this is a fucking awesome series. I think I might have been one of those people that had hopped onto the Netflix series a little bit late. The Breaking Bad series a little bit late as well. So I wanted to check out what this Manifest television show was. And so from what I could tell, is, a group of people are on an airplane, and when they touch down after a little bit of turbulence, they realize they've been in the air for 5 years. I'm like, oh my fuck, like this is ridiculous, So that's a cool concept in its own. We have composer Danny Lux on the music, which I wasn't going to say anything good or bad about it. It's there. Executive producer. This is where I was really like, wow, this is pretty impressive to have behind the scenes. Is Robert Zemeckis and Jack. I don't know who Jack Rapke is, but he is a producer on Castaway, so he's worked with Robert Zemeckis before. So having some big names behind this is promising for the show, but they're not exactly directing anything, so it's not like they're necessarily on set day to day. So this most of the television is between 40 and 50 minutes, give or take how long the episode is, but it is a solid 40-minute show generally. So the premise is Montego Air Flight 828 from Jamaica to New York City experiences a brief period of severe turbulence when they land at Stewart International Airport in Newburgh, New York City. The 191 passengers and crew learned from NASA director Robert Vance that over 5.5 years have passed while they are in the air, during which time they are presumed dead. As they rejoin the society, the passengers. Okay, so we've had some promising behind-the-scenes producers on here. What do we have? Robert Zemeckis. We have Jack Rapke. These are two guys that were responsible for some Castaway work. Let me see if they had anybody else on there. Tom Hanks was actually a producer on that as well. But I think those were the two main individuals that were on Castaway that are joining us for Manifest. So along with Manifest, there were a lot of other types of television shows that are similar to like Lost in that sense. And that was the first thing that came to my mind when I was thinking about it. I was like, okay, so instantly this is going to be like some sort of Lost ripoff puzzle box. Got to figure out what's the deal. What's the deal with these different passengers and stuff like that. Just 110 different things, you know? So the premise is the Montego Air Flight 828 from Jamaica to New York City experiences a brief period of severe turbulence when they land at Stewart International Airport in Newborough, New York. The 191 passengers and the crew learned from the NSA director, Robert Vance, that over 5.5 years have passed since they were in the air. During that time, they were all presumed dead. And so we've seen this actually happen in real life where just like an airplane will go like straight up missing. The one that comes to mind was the one in Malaysia, I believe. They had like a lot of people just go straight up missing on an air flight, and they believe that sometimes the airplane commercial flights were like shot down in like on accident or something like that, or they experience something and they go in a crash and they go into the ocean and we can't find them, and then all we have is like the black box when we find it. It's like there's always this like layer of mystery, but yeah, so that's what this is, except for they were the thing is they were in the air what felt like a normal flight, except for the rest of the world experienced 5 years faster, you know, or was sped up to 5 years. And so and it just felt like a normal flight to them. So it's a pretty intriguing premise on itself, I'm not gonna lie. So as they rejoin society, the passengers begin to face the fact that their lives and the loved ones are not the same as they once were, while they also begin to experience these types of things. They have like these experiences that happen to them that are kind of in a realm of like supernatural in a way. So there is very interesting layers of plot threads, premise, storytelling throughout this show. Now, I can see why this show is popular in the way that it is. The reason that it is this popular is because of the format of the puzzle box, of the way it's formatted. You know, they have all these different characters. We want to learn all these different stories and what's making them tick and why they're on the flight and what's the repercussions of that as well. So, yeah, with saying all that, you know, let's continue these roughly 40 to 50 minute eps. All right, so here is the plot to the first episode, in case anyone's wondering what's going on and what's the premise of the first episode. Just you kind of got an idea. There's this supernatural thing / time loop type thing going on. We're not really sure. Definitely some sci-fi fiction, and yeah, it's a puzzle box, but you know, my personal take is it still has that layer in cinematography and sheen of the single camera this person talks, this person answers, this person talks, this person answers. There's not much in the realm of really interesting cinematography in this season, or sorry, in this first couple episodes, especially this first episode. I originally, it is very much like puzzle of the week, and it's like they're experiencing something and then they have to figure out what they're experiencing and how it affects the overall plot, and it feels a little bit formulaic in that way. And I did notice a few times when I was watching the episode, at least by the second or third episode, they are wanting they want you to guess. They want you to like guess along with this, visual puzzle that they have going on in the story. But the problem is, the writing is very sub-serious in a way that I don't think they understand how serious they're coming off as. And no one can tell a joke. It's very, I would have said overly dramatic in some scenarios, but that's just me personally. I can see some people getting really interested in this season, and even in this episode 1, it's got a great hook, especially for not exactly a Lost ripoff, but a kind of another layer of using a group of people on an airplane and something crazy happens to them, So here's that first episode. So I would only recommend this season. I haven't watched this full first season, but I would only recommend this first full season if you know that you're going into it, that it's not the best. It's not the most impressive stuff you've ever seen. It is a little bit cringy here and there. And I also found it in a way, it's like a feel-good porn. Okay, so this was something I've been describing away. So there's this guy that went really viral on all the porn sites or something like that for like it was just like a video of him telling people that, that they matter. And it was like very feel-good type stuff. It was not even sexual at all. The guy ended up going viral. I don't remember his name, but the guy ended up like, becoming a millionaire or something like that for just telling people they felt good. And I mean, there's a market for that. And it kind of felt like this season, this show specifically has parts of it that feel like they're telling the audience things that you want to hear. You've always mattered to me, or you've always wanted you there, or, things you wouldn't normally always say to, to whomever, your spouse, your loved one, your daughter, your brother, all these things that you wish you would have said. It feels like this show is trying to is them telling you, almost like a proxy. It's feel good TV in a way, with a puzzle layered into it. So yeah, here is the plot. I'm fighting a big ass fucking air conditioning, so y'all let me know if y'all hear that. I'm trying to muffle as much of the sound as I can, and I just don't want to fucking wait. I just want to talk about this stuff. So, all right, so here is season 1. And if you see me talking out the side of my mouth like this, it's not because I got something wrong with me or I had some sort of mental problem, like a stroke or something. It's because my mic is to the left. Side salad. My buddies will get that one. If you ever just wanted a fresh side salad, or side salad, and not to dismiss the people who talk like this. Some people from certain places. Hey, I'm walking here. You know what I'm saying? I talk out the side of my mouth a lot. So this is with reason, though, because my mic is, had a duty. So, it should be keyed out, too. There's a big glob of a green screen trying to block this mic right now, so hopefully it works. So, Season 1, Episode 1 of the pilot the pilot of Manifest. On April 7th, 2013, Montego Air Flight 828 from Jamaica to New York City experiences a brief period of severe turbulence. When they land, they are diverted to Stewart International Airport in Newborough, New York. The passengers and crew learn that their date is November 4th, 2018. Over 5.5 years have passed, and while they're in the air, police officer Michelle learns that her mother has died and her fiance Jared has married her best friend. Oh my, that's not good, um, especially with the mother thing. She begins hearing a voice. This is when we're gonna start to get into spoilers. So just to give everyone a warning, if you haven't seen this first episode, we're gonna talk about spoilers for this first episode. She begins hearing a voice that guides her to save a child from being hit by a bus, and then eventually to rescue two abducted girls. Um, and I gotta say, straight off the bat, it's not this like quote unquote religious overtone that's clearly happening through this. It's like, there's this, kind of guidance that's happening to these people that have experienced this 828 flight. So I'm not going to like say anything bad about that. I'm not trying to say, the religious angle is not what I'm feeling in this. It's the feeling of like this quote unquote, what they're eventually going to call a calling. I don't think that that's too much of a spoiler in these next few episodes. They're going to call it something. It's going to be called a calling. That they do question it, but not to the point where it always has something to do with the story. It's like they think that the calling has something to do with the actual flight and the mystery around it. And that's fun and good and dandy, but this first episode is showing this calling it's just like helping random people. And it's a little bit like random. It's like, okay, so they experienced this weird flight and now they're having like these premonitions of like, kids being kidnapped and where to save them, plus all this side stuff, of trying to help people. All of a sudden it's like, okay, that's kind of a cool premise, but also it has nothing to do with the overarching plot, which is not exactly interesting for me as a viewer. It's just kind of showing the tactical nature of the calling. But I'm like, okay, I'll get with it. And at this point, I'm like, all right, it is a little bit soapy, a little bit dramatic, and I don't want to put my foot down too bad on it. I could really go in and say, the cinematography is just completely dull. There's no camera work. It's straight AB camera. It's, this person says someone, this one person reacts. This person says something, this person reacts. It's very generic in that point. I'm not going to go through that and say that because I think it does its job for a cable show, and it's clearly gotten what it said. It's over 10 million viewers on prime time. So NBC's obviously got something on their hands. It's kind of surprising that they canceled it after 3 seasons, considering it had 10 million starting off the gate, but I guess it might have just fallen off too much. So, continuing on with this first episode, medical researcher Sanvi, who's one of my favorite characters in this, learns that her work has helped to save hundreds of pediatric cancer patients while she was gone. And I gotta say, it is interesting to see the lives of these people like continue on, and the work of this person is she's not there to see what happened, but it is interesting to see her reaction to how she's able to save so many kids and all this. That's excellent, and I love that concept. It kind of felt a little bit like this feels like a little bit like a Black Mirror / Twilight Zone episode that's just like elongated into a series in a way, not in a bad way, but just in a way that was like, is this going to be able to sustain itself as a series? So, but storylines like that I enjoyed. Michelle's nephew Cal, is her name Michelle? Did I get that name right? Her nephew Cal, who is suffering from terminal cancer, was also on flight 828. He's a young boy. Okay, so I believe Cal has a twin sister at that point before the flight, and they decide to go. They take separate flights, and his sister and his mother go on an earlier flight or something like that, and they get home earlier, thus his twin sister ends up becoming 5 years older than him, and it's like this shocking age difference between these people, and how these people have, the repercussions of not being there for 5 years. People move on, people have different lives, people are completely different, they have different um, point of views and stuff like that. There's so much that happens in that 5 year span, especially from a young formative age. I enjoyed the cold callousness of how, Cal cold callousness, the how Cal was reacting to his all of his friends, his sister, his family, everyone has grown up without him, and he feels a little bit left behind. And I enjoy, I don't enjoy, but I appreciate them showing that that experience to a way. I don't think it's like anything remarkable, but it's like I'm glad that they're giving the perspective of the kid, the perspective of the doctor, the perspective of the cop, the perspective of the medical examiner. We're getting all these different perspectives of what has happened. And of course, that's interesting. That's kind of why the hook of Lost was so good. They had, and they pretty much dedicated an episode per person, and you would follow each person in each episode and kind of figure out what their backstory was slash what they're going through at the main time. So there's this back and forth nature of learning about this character from different perspectives and different time periods. So yeah, by all means, there's a reason that the formula of having a bunch of people on an island, or a bunch of people on an airplane, and something happened to them, and learning about them is interesting. They normally have interesting backstories, so it allows them to have some of the most interesting writing. Now that doesn't say that the writing is going to be the most interesting, but the story might be. So Cal, the younger boy that didn't end up aging, he came back with his father and his aunt, and by the time he's back, they're let me see. He is a candidate for the cancer treatment that was originally not available several years ago, which is remarkable to think about. It's like, how many people are probably suffering from things that if they could just hop in a time tube or an airplane that takes them 5 years into the future, and they could get that medical treatment. It's just kind of remarkable to think about, the lives that could be saved if we could transport people to the future. I mean, it's a completely different topic, but it is something to think about. It's like, so he's also experiencing headaches and hearing voices. Michelle is sorry, is it Michaela or Michelle? Oh, I gotta figure this out. Michael's? Is her name Michael? Okay. I'll figure out her name by the next time I podcast. I guess Michael. I don't remember her name. Michelle. I'm saying Michelle. Her brother Ben and the rest of the returning passengers and the crew are drawn to the airship where the plane is parked. And by hearing all the voices and stuff like that, as they look on, the plane explodes. So, if you think about that, when they first touch down, I appreciate all of the government, the army, everybody coming in and saying, "Where the fuck have you been?" and them running all these tests, them asking all these questions. The only thing is, I don't feel like the people were really acting like they had been gone for 5 years. They didn't, because they didn't really feel like it, but they weren't like begging to see their family immediately and kind of figure out what's going on and kind of gear their bearings. There is a montage of them getting all interviewed, the pilot. Some people are kind of funny and a little bit like, what the fuck is going on? And other people are just like, just not even reacting to the situation. And I felt like there's either an underreacting or there's overreacting. And there wasn't really this layer of, being able to relate that much. I felt like there was only a handful or a select few of people that you could really relate to in this series, at least for this first episode. I think it kind of improves as it goes on. I will say that most of the people of color are kind of relegated to their general stereotypes of always having to be either from other countries. They're not really the main center or main center of the story that much, at least for this first few episodes. I will say there is a episode a little bit further down the road. It's a little bit not problematic. Problematic sounds like I got upset, but I was just like, it's not my favorite interpretation, and let me think anything else. Like I said, I hear some people are loving this, some people are hating this, some people are in between, some people haven't finished it, and I've only watched a little bit. It's one of those shows that you could probably, watch and almost keep on in the background as you're doing something and kind of come back to it. So it doesn't require your full attention, because it feels like they show a reveal of the puzzle and then they have to say the reveal. So if you don't see it immediately or understand what's going on, they pretty much spell it out for you for for the people that are like, wait, what? Maybe me with names, if they might need to do that a few times, but generally I can understand the puzzle and the premise. So yeah, with having the plane explode, that's going to make it a little bit more difficult for the government, this overarching government agency of people that are trying to follow all of these different people through their lives, which it's like, wait, why? And I will say, I don't think it's a spoiler to say that there's one or two scenes, I think within the second or third episode maybe, that they have people and scientists, they have scientists and people that are in the government. They're trying to discuss and figure out what happened with this plane, and having some sort of economic response to it, or government response to it. They're concerned about, is it a foreign weapon? Did they do it on purpose? Are they being tested? I enjoy that type of talk, and I think that's my favorite part of the show, and that's the most important thing that's keeping me intrigued in it. And having 16 episodes in the first season at 40 minutes each is a little bit hefty. Looks like the viewership was cut in half by the end of that, starting at 10 million at the first episode and then whittling down all the way to 5 million at the end. And then I'm seeing that the average viewership dwindled for the last 3 seasons. It just doesn't feel like they would be able to sustain 3 seasons of this with 16 episodes. But I would have said the same thing about Lost if it was just now coming out. Lost did a tremendous job at the pacing of it, and having I felt like there was people that were having a good time. The biggest problem of Manifest, in my opinion, is it doesn't feel like people are having a good time. Even with how the extremes circumstances that they were put under in that show, those characters were put under, it felt like they managed to have characters that were able to have laugh, or they were able to have a good time in some places. So that's my biggest thing. And kind of looking at the direction and writing, there are different directors and different writers. Jeff Rake is seems to be one of the main writers in the first 2 episodes, but overall I don't see anybody that is the same director nor writer, so it kind of feels like a little bit jumbled in that sense, which I wouldn't say that I could necessarily feel all that, but there's not this level of cohesiveness that I normally like in my television and my television watching and whatnot. So yeah, thus I think we depart. Let me see. Okay, so yeah, why does the first episode say what is her name? Michelle? It's not Michelle, I think it's Melissa, because I'm seeing Melissa in the main. So I'm sorry I said Michelle or whatever the hell in the first thing. I think her name is Melissa Roxburgh. Oh, Melissa Roxburgh is her. Oh, okay. So it is Michelle Stone. Okay, so Melissa Roxburgh is the actress. Sorry, I'm a little slow on the come up right now. So yeah, so yeah, there is this like you know, over dramatization in some scenarios, and kind of this layer of predictability. But I will say, despite all of that, um, I'm kind of enjoying it a little bit. I'm going to try to finish the first season and give my full review at the very end just to have it all concise. But that's overarching what I'm feeling with Manifest. It's not, necessarily blowing my socks off or anything like that, but I'm having a good time. Kind of just having it on the background as I edit or something like that. It's not like capturing my full attention. It doesn't require your full attention, and it's clean enough where you technically, I think you could have the full family watch this. It's not really dirty at all. I don't hardly any cussing, so it's very base level. If your family can watch the Marvel movies, then you can watch this. Yeah. So far, I honestly feel like it's not even as dark as Lost. At least these first few episodes, and I've seen up to like episode 9, I think. But I won't give anything away. Just it does kind of follow the same formula in the first few episodes. The calling, the puzzle, the figuring out of the backstories of these characters, and then them dealing with the repercussions of being gone for 5 years, which I think is one of the most interesting parts about it. But yeah, so there's different layers there's different reasons that people will come to this check this series out. But let me know what you thought about Manifest. Let me know what you thought about the review. Let me know if this fucking air conditioning was just out of proportion. I'm gonna try to master it, to try to tweak it and everything to make sure it doesn't sound too bad. And I've also got this new green screen setup I'm trying to fix out. I've been working on the keying, and I've been seeing I've not been happy with the stuff that's been produced on the keying side. So I'm gonna work on the green screen stuff, and I'm gonna work on the podcasting stuff. And yeah, check out all the other podcasts that we've released. We have movie reviews. You can just click the full playlist on YouTube and watch all the reviews. I think there's over 100 movie reviews ready for you to listen. We have some reviews on toon shows, such as Courage the Cowardly Dog. I loved watching that first season, and I watched it first season all the way through, gave first episode review and the first season finale review as well. We've checked out Black Widow on the Disney Plus. Scarlett Johansson freaking sued Disney. That's some crazy stuff. Check out the Aftercast if you want to check out some behind the scenes of the podcast and non-specific television and movie talk. That's Aftercast, and you can check all of this out live on Twitch. You can check out the video on YouTube. You can check out the SoundCloud for it mastered. You can get this all early. You could have been listening to this and watching this early on patreon.com/LuckyDog Podcast. If you want to support, donate, podcast with us, or just talk to us, whatever, email us, whatever you want to do, LuckyDogPodcast@gmail.com. And you can also check out our website, LuckyDogPodcast.com. Thank you for listening, watching Look It Up Podcast. Take it easy.